Shalom. Welcome to another episode of Inspiration from Zion. I'm Jonathan Feldstein, and I have the privilege of being your host, coming to you from the Judean Mountains here in Israel. I like to refer to it as the original Bible Belt. Inspiration from Zion is a program of the Genesis 123 Foundation, whose mission is to build bridges between Jews and Christians with Israel in ways that are new, unique, and meaningful. I pray that you will find this all of those. Through this program, we're excited to connect you to people and stories in and relating to Israel, experiencing aspects of life here that you might not otherwise know about. We want this to be interactive, so please be in touch with us at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com and send along any questions and any comments about any topic anytime. Or you can reach us at genesis123.co or follow and like Inspiration from Zion on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Stay tuned until the end where we always have some exciting announcements, and please share this with others who will also find it of interest. As we do, we're now almost 6 years into the Inspiration from Zion webinar series and 5 years as a podcast. As we've always done, we jump into topics that I frequently find there's not enough time to cover properly. And it's always, what do they say? Arnie, you probably know this. It's always better leaving your audience wanting more rather than exhausting it so everyone logs out and is bored. Today, we're going to leave more on the table than we're going to have a chance to speak about, and that's why this is a beginning of a series within a series. This is loosely called What Are We Thinking? With a question mark and an exclamation point. It's a question. What are Israelis thinking about as it relates to the upcoming election? And what are we thinking? Exclamation point. How can we even be having this conversation that it's things are not more clear, that we're going into the first election with a government that may actually meet the term and fulfill its term, although that's up in the air yet by several weeks. We're going to talk about that. And it's the first election that's most consequential in the significance of this election being the first election since October 7th and the massacre there. And we're going to have a conversation with 6 panelists, 5 of whom are with us today. The idea is to create what people today call a cohort that we're going to be having conversations with on a monthly basis. We want you to meet and get to know the panelists and what they're thinking and why they're thinking. And for that reason, I'm so excited. In just a moment, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, kind of like we're beginning the first series of Fauda, because these are the people that you're going to want to follow for the next few months as we get into the election. These are our characters, our Daron and Steve. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can email me offline. But I say it because we just had the third episode of Fauda released. Let me do this. Let me begin before we jump into the election and the many issues. And I think today, in our first conversation about this, I want to discuss some broader issues. Why we are undecided. That's the important thing about this. I am an undecided voter here in Israel. If the election were tomorrow, I would not know who I'm voting for. But my job here today is to be a moderator and to keep the conversation going, although for sure I'm going to chime in at certain points to share my own personal thinking and amplify some of our panelists. But the idea is to have a variety that's not too what's the word? Unrestrained with too many people to be able to have demographic to the extent that we have some diversity, albeit that we're all Anglo immigrants from different times in our lives in different parts of the world. We are all voters ranging from somewhat to the right and to somewhat to the left with a big chunk in the middle. And we are all looking for answers to a different variety of questions as to who we're going to vote for, whether the election is in September or in October as it's currently scheduled. With that, and I'm going to do my best to keep up in alphabetical order, as at least I like to try. Let me ask Arnie Draymond, who's joined Inspiration from Zion on a few conversations in the past. Just give us a minute, introduce yourself to everyone who's following, and we'll continue to follow, please.
Thank you, Jonathan. Arnie Draymond. I live in Jerusalem. I've been here over 40 years. I work in the nonprofit field for the most part. I also do some writing, editing, translating, um, and be very interested in seeing how the next 6 months will come out to be in terms of 5 months to the elections.
Indeed. Thank you. Rolene Mark is not with us. She unfortunately is feeling ill. Um, I'm not going to introduce Rolene, but she'll hopefully be on the next conversation. But I want to acknowledge that she's our missing panelist for today. And before I continue, part of the reason of having such a big panel is I know things will come up. Someone's going to get sick. Someone's going to have another family commitment. Someone might be in a business meeting and not be able to make it. Someone might be on deadline publishing a magazine and might not be able to make it. So that's one of the reasons we have the big panel. Next, alphabetically, Batya Madad. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Batya Medad. Made Aliyah in 1970 with my husband soon after our wedding. We lived in the old city, then we lived in Beit Began, Jerusalem, spent a couple of years on Shlichut in London, and then in 1981, we moved with then 3 girls and a baby boy to Shiloh, the first holy city, before there was Jerusalem, actually, and had another boy there. And I've been blogging. I have the Shiloh Musings and a Jewish grandmother, and retired. I've had all sorts of jobs, and I feel like an orphan when it comes to politics.
Yeah, that was a good comment that you made to me when we were beginning to organize this, a political orphan. We're going to come back to that. Yehuda Pash, we've never met in person, but your parents live a couple of floors below me in my building. Welcome.
Just been in the wrong places at the wrong times.
Indeed.
So yeah, my name is Yehuda Pash. I have been living in Israel for 29 years. Immigrated here from Toronto. I spent 2 years living in Rehovot and the last 27 years living in Ramat Beit Shemesh. Formerly, I worked as a journalist and in the nonprofit world. I even worked with Arnie for a little bit. For the last 13 and a half years, I've worked as a professional translator at the Central Bank, the Bank of Israel, gaining access to a lot of economic policy ideas, research, knowledge, that kind of thing, to go with my access to the nonprofit world, which I had beforehand, and to the journalistic world, which I had beforehand. So I've managed to get the ear of or the attention of various different parts of society across the country to hear what they're saying, to hear what they're talking about, and to build opinions from that. And as Batya said, I'm also more or less a political orphan at this point.
Okay. Erica, we've had you on a couple of times also in the past.
That's
Always
right.
appreciate your participation and insight. Why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, I'm Erica Shackney. I made Aliyah in end of 2009, so I've been here for 16 years. I didn't study it formally, but a year and a half later, I fell into journalism. It was a happy event. And then I've been at the Jerusalem Post ever since, which is about 15 years, I guess, or something like that. Um, And I am the editor of the national magazine and the local in Jerusalem section. I originally came from New York City and I've been living in Jerusalem ever since I made Aliyah. And I feel like being on the ground here in Jerusalem is a great way to just understand so many dynamics. And I like to hear what people are thinking. And I get a lot of those opinions around the Shabbat table, but also just talking randomly to people on the bus. So people love to talk here, so I'm here for it.
And if anyone follows you on social media, they'll know that you really don't like the unpopularness of the prime minister because you live so close to the residents and their protests that are interfering with your life all the time. Yeah.
Right. Luckily, they've stopped coming here. I think they've stopped coming to Balfour altogether. Maybe there's still something there. They
Okay.
enjoy protesting, I find. Yes, I did not enjoy them protesting on Saturday night when I was getting ready for the work week. That
Indeed.
says nothing about my opinion politically, just that I do not like to be disturbed.
You and Nachum Lamb.
Right. So true. He was living on Aza though, Aza Road. It was much worse. Yeah.
Mark Simanowitz, we go way back, I think longer than everyone else. And in case you don't mention it, everyone's talking about when they made Aliyah. Mark made Aliyah with his family to my basement for 2 weeks, 20 some years ago. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Mark Simanowitz. I am 34 years old. I made Aliyah from Teaneck, New Jersey, back in 2006. And yeah, and now I am living in Jerusalem. I used to live in Gush Etzion, and now I live in Jerusalem. I am currently finishing up a PhD in genetics at Hebrew University, and I have become much more politically active. A lot of labor organizing with Koach Lovdim, and some community organizing. Now working with the asylum seekers in Jerusalem, and also with the unhoused population. And yeah, also I'm more on the left, but as many of you may know, with the left isn't really that organized at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you for representing the left for us, and we'll see where that goes. I want to jump in. Batya, you mentioned being and Yehuda, the terms political orphan, what orphans or just undecided and confused. As we begin this conversation today, but broadly, what I'd love to know from each of you, what are the top two, three, four, if you want, issues that you're looking at as we get closer to the election? And
Okay.
anyone feel free. Batya, go ahead.
All right. So I think in terms of what I really wanted and expected from political leaders is the same that I wanted in 1967 when the dust settled after the 6 Days War, that it seemed the most normal, natural thing that any country in the world would do after such a victory. And all right, I'll give my age. I was 18 years old when the war broke out. Actually, I discovered afterwards that it was my Hebrew birthday that day the war broke out, when I was 18. So you could do the math. And this was so I wasn't a little kid. And I was relatively new as a Zionist, and I was relatively new also to a Torah observant life. But a victory like that, when you have the enemy with the white flags and expecting us to take over, we should have taken over and settled all the lands and declared full sovereignty. Instead, the government didn't do it. They didn't do it then. And then it was labor government. So those of us who supported Menachem Begin expected, if he ever got into office, we would finally, instead of a government saying, well, we're holding the land so we could buy peace from the Arabs, and we'll pay the Arabs for peace. That's the land for peace. And that really was a kick in the kishkas for most of us in my thing, way back
Then,
from
but
from
what I'd like to know now in
so what's
2026,
happening is we're
yeah,
still in the same position that when we win, and even in 2023, when we did such a good job cleaning up most of Gaza, we didn't come in and act like victors, and we didn't take it back to us. Gaza has a long Jewish history, and the minute that I thought I had been a follower of Menachem Begin, but when he gave the Sinai away, I lost my leader. Then we had Techia, and
what's Tahia?
Techia.
People who don't know, describe.
Oh,
Uh,
I forget. Techia was a political party that it was a real mix of religious and non-religious, but everyone was very pro land of Israel as a Jewish land and should be Israeli land. So you had Geula Cohen, you had was it Moshe Shamir, and Eldad was a supporter, and you had Dr. Michael Ben Ari. It was a mix of people, it was not a homogeneous group, but a lot of the pro-land of Israel is very mixed.
So what would you
Besides that
say are
one
the
thing.
what's the top issue, two issues, three issues that you're looking for in terms of making a decision who you're going to vote for this year?
I want someone who's going to give us a true victory, and we have to settle the land. I don't want to keep hearing about how we empty out buildings, warning the enemy, and then waste our bombs bombing empty buildings. We haven't acted as victors. I want a proud Jewish victory. I want that's for security. We're not going to have security until we are victors. And
Okay.
and it's been breaking my heart. I've been seeing this decade after decade. And there's at one point it looked like Naftali Bennett had the right ideas, because I haven't voted for Likud for decades. But he also fell apart. He's not a good
Okay. We're going to talk about the
um
people. I'm just trying to frame what are the issues as
yeah.
people get,
So
as we get to know
I
each other.
want I want a secure country, and the
Okay.
way of having a secure country is to accept your victory and use it for the good of the people, and to allow settlement and to be sovereign.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna.
Um, Go ahead, Yuda.
All
Your
right.
top issues.
I'm gonna put this in a little bit of a different, completely different perspective here. Um, I came on Aliyah because Israel was a place to move to, not because I was leaving a place that had to be moved from. Um, I aspired to be living in Israel because I aspired to be a part of what was going on here. And for quite a few years, I was able to do that. I was able to contribute. I was able to get to meet people. I was able to gain perspectives. I was able to participate. Over the last, I would say, 7 or 8 years, I think that's fallen apart. Um, I would like to say, I mean, I originally come as well from the political right, but I don't think that the right-left um, dichotomy is the structure that is the structure here anymore. I don't think that it's relevant as much as it used to be, and I think that over time it's going to become less and less relevant. I think Marx said that the left was not really organized anymore. I don't think that the left is as a structure really exists anymore in Israel. And I think that the right is going the same direction. And Tov Shakach, I think that
Koshikov
it's
means that's good.
yes, it's good. I think that it served its purpose. Right now, I think that the issue has to be how to make Israel again a country that people aspire to come to. How to make Israel what they would call in the States, a shining city upon a hill. We're like a shining country, and we've got the hills, okay? But we're not really shining anymore. That's the problem. The problem is that there's enough problems here that people are complaining about and that are complaining about loudly. And when I hear the people making these complaints, it viscerally hurts me because on the one hand, they're right, but on the other hand, the complaints are becoming the identity. And
Uh,
that's not what we're meant to be here. Okay, there are major issues that can be dealt with in this country without any attention being paid to right or left. It's people who come to work versus people who come to play around, enjoy their seat, enjoy the salary, whatever it happens to be. And sadly, I think that the people on the right, let's say I would say 2/3 of the Likud and almost everybody to their right, and the people on the left are people who are coming here to play around and not to work. And the people who in the
you're
center
talking
who
about Knesset members, yeah?
Knesset
People who
members, yes,
actually,
and
okay.
people who are coming here to
Right.
work are being marginalized inside the Likud and in the center of the political what people would still call the center of the political spectrum. Okay, these are people who are not being given a chance to do what they really can do.
Okay. So,
Batya, you mentioned Naftali Bennett beforehand. Okay, like I said, I've been here 29 years. I came as a right winger. I voted for the Likud once in that entire time. Um, and other than that, I voted for parties to their right a couple of times and parties to their left, like I would say right of center, most of the time, including Naftali Bennett 5 times.
wow.
Okay. and Naftali Bennett's government between 2021 and 2022 actually had the potential to do what needed to be done to improve things in this country and make it again a place where we could be proud to live.
So Yehuda, let me focus. Finish your thought, and then I want to focus it on those
Okay.
issues. Summarize all of it into the three issues that you're looking for.
Okay, so I'm going to finish. I'll do exactly that. I'll finish the thought and then summarize it. Bennett wasn't given a chance to last more than a year, which I think was a real shame. But at the other time, on the other hand, he also made a major mistake by not communicating properly why he formed the government that he did. Okay, I'm not against the government that he formed, even as a solid right winger, as somebody who voted for the National Union in the 90s and the aughts. Okay, I'm not against the government that he founded, because he founded the government to solve problems, and the problems existed in the population segments that were represented by his government, and he put people in places where they could actually make a major difference. The problem is that he didn't communicate that properly to his base, and so his base disappeared, which led to his government falling. He has that problem now too in this campaign, and it's a problem that I think is a major problem, which is one of the reasons why I'm undecided. I'm not sure that I'm going to vote for him again, because I don't see that he'll be able to actually gain the strength necessary to do what needs to be done.
Okay.
Okay, now in terms of the issues, the major issue that this country faces right now, believe it or not, is the economy. And I'm not saying that it's because the economy is weak or because the economy is in doing things that it shouldn't do. There are things in the economy that are not even necessarily economy centric, but the answers to them are in the economy. Okay, these things are major existential threats to the country. More so than the Arabs, more so than the Palestinians. I would even argue more so than Iran. Okay, we have 20% of the population right now that is not contributing, that is not, and I'm not talking about the army only, I'm talking about society in general.
Economically,
Economically, they're not contributing economically, and they're not, it's almost like they're fighting against contributing economically. They don't want to be out of the poverty cycle. They don't want to be in a situation where they're earning a decent salary rather than getting, chesed money or, charity or whatever you want to call it. And that's only one of the problems. The education system in this country is terrible. Okay, the country is churning out engineers and doctors and scientists and top-notch people. And it's not coming because of the education system. It's coming because of the army. The education system in this country is terrible. And everyone sees it and everyone knows it, and it's done, international studies are being done about it. And out of the 39 countries in the OECD, Israel's education system is 36th.
So you've got education, you've got economy, and a subset of economy. You mentioned 20% of the population who are not the left-handed people, but who are probably the ultra-Orthodox and or the Arab populations.
What you're saying now is correct, and I'm going to correct myself. It's not 20% of the population, it's closer to 40.
Right.
When you throw in most of the, not all, but most
I just want to draw the broad picture so people are understanding what you're talking about as we have this conversation.
It's most of the ultra-Orthodox and it's the Arabs. And it's not just that they're not contributing in the military, although that's a third major issue.
We're going to come to that.
Okay. It's that they're not contributing in the economy. These people have, like I said, I work at the central bank. I see the studies, I see the statistics. I translate the annual reports of the research department where they talk about these things. Okay. The average income of the country right now is about 14,000 shekels a month. Everybody included.
Is that a joint income?
No, per person.
Okay.
Okay. But if you remove the ultra-Orthodox, particularly the ultra-Orthodox men, and if you remove the Arabs, okay, if you remove those two population groups, the average income in the economy goes up to 19,000 shekels per person. These people are drawing down the economy. They are drawing down the country. They're drawing down the potential that the huge, immense potential that this country has.
Okay.
Partly because they're uneducated and partly because they simply either don't want to or don't have the tools to join the workforce in any kind of significant contributory way.
Okay. Thank you. Let me try and move on and have everyone also portray what soapbox they're standing on. What are the issues? Erica, Mark, Arnie, who wants to jump in?
I'll jump
Erica,
in.
go.
I agree with a lot of what Yehuda said, but I'm coming at it slightly differently. Like the first thing that jumped out at me when you said that is I just want a Knesset with integrity. I feel like there are two groups. It's not a political thing. It's the politicians and the people. The people are mostly good, wanting the best for the country, and religious, non-religious, whatever you are, they were acted amazingly after October 7th. They put together so many nonprofits, and they were the ones really running the country, despite the politicians. I have to work so hard to find a politician that I can actually stomach. And like in every party, like
That's
what
exactly the problem.
happened? What the death of shame, it's so cynical. And I think what's so disgusting is just how it's self-serving. I think the coalition system is terrible. It does no one any favors. It's so hard to govern. But I think that like you said, I want a representative government. I want everyone represented. And Naftali Bennett's government was the first time that there were actually women. Like, oh, I'm saying more women. There was enough of everyone. And obviously, everything is different now. It's hard to say the top three issues, they're all intertwined. Obviously, security, but I don't think there's ever a solution because I think we live in a different world. I think what Batya was saying, you could have a victory maybe in 1967. You cannot have a traditional victory in 2026. There's too much going on. There's too much social media. We don't play to win. We play, I don't know if there's even a strategy in our war.
That's the
It's,
problem.
and I don't think there will be. I don't know if there will be. It's very hard to say. Everything is so uncertain, not just in Israel, but in the world. The
So
economy
leave
is,
that big issue aside, the security thing, which, if I can paraphrase you, Erica, we're not going to get that right anyway, so we're going to manage it, and then let's focus on the other social things
no,
that
I
make it
mean,
a
I
better
just
place
think
to
there's
live
going
while
to
we're
be,
managing it.
we've slipped into a pattern. There's a flare up, some worse than others now. Like it seems like the flare ups now include missiles. And 6 months go by, there's a ceasefire, and then it starts again. And what have we really accomplished? And we're kicking the can down the road. I mean, we've done historic things, but it doesn't seem like there's anything decisive being done. And I don't have much faith in our leaders. I can think of a few people perhaps that have integrity and want the best, but I want to be able to stomach the people in the party.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I'm just going to vote with my heart. And I'm not going to start doing calculations in my head of who can form the best coalition. I,
That's a question
and
I want
I
to come
want,
to.
who cares about the people?
Okay.
Who actually takes a moment? A public servant is to serve. Who was the last a member of Knesset that served? I want to think about that. And then,
So, so
yes,
if Arnie and I had a political party, would you vote for us?
um, what's your platform?
Sounds like Naftali
Integrity,
Bennett's government.
integrity.
Integrity. Yeah, that's a start. If that's on your platform, then you're actually getting it to some extent. So yeah, the Israeli people are suffering. The average Israeli person is struggling to make it through the month. Everybody is traumatized. It's not the government's fault though, because we have endured something so catastrophic and difficult. It's unprecedented, and we're not even done with it yet. And I think we have to just stop blaming everybody. As much as I want leaders with integrity, I just want to stop pointing fingers, and I just want to go about living and in a way that can be like we can all respect and let people live with dignity and live economically with dignity, live and serve in the army, and and just be a person who goes about and lives and is with their kids. And it's just so, it seems hard to get through the day even sometimes. Anyway, security, economy, and the Haredim, the ultra Orthodox.
Ultra-Orthodox.
It is absolutely disgusting that there's a population that proudly is not serving in the army and proudly tries to separate itself from the rest of the country. And it's not so much if they were at least, first of all, it's hard to say who they are. I'm trying not to say they're the other, but we're supposed to be one Judaism. And that's not just who lives here. But anyway, if they're so religious, there's a commandment to serve, and none of it makes any sense anymore, and it looks increasingly cultish. And there's a large part of the Haredim that are not only not grateful for being, having an income because of the people who work, but actually practically spit on the people who work. And I think the average Israeli is sick and tired of them being in control. I personally am sick and tired of them setting the agenda and just trying to get their hands on what they can get. That's the feeling that I get. And I will vote for a coalition that does not have the Haredim on it.
Okay, thank you.
Even though I said I don't care about the coalition.
Right.
But
by the
there's
way,
so many thoughts.
that's underscoring many of the challenges, and one of the things we're going to need to get into, and not today, because it's actually foundational in the electoral system, is that those following from other democracies don't understand the complicated parliamentary system that we have, and the coalitions that are being formed, and whether we're a little bit what's the word? The word is going out of my head. Schizophrenic, like Erica just said. I don't care about the coalition, but I don't want to vote for anyone who's going to make a coalition with the ultra Orthodox. So we do care, and those are factors that we have to consider. I want to, if it's okay, Erica, I want to move forward. Arnie, I wanted to come to you, not to push you off, Mark, but you'll get kind of the last comment on this. Arnie, Erica started out speaking about something relating to women and women in representation, and you just happened to send me this week an article about the only political party, not advocating for them necessarily, that's headed by a woman. It's an interesting demographic. What are your thoughts on not on that, because we're going to get there, but on what are your issues that you're looking for as we progress toward the election?
Well, I'll give you a hint. If you go back to the previous election and look in the pages of the Jerusalem Post, I wrote an op-ed about who I was voting for based on integrity. And so I still believe that to be, Erica, the number one issue, that I want to vote for a person who I have faith in, who I want in the Knesset, who I feel will be a mover and shaker and I can trust, and who's a mensch, and a good, honest person doing good work, doing it properly. I may not agree with everything the person says, but I understand that they're a good person. So currently, and I haven't reviewed all the lists yet of the coalition party, of the parties running for Knesset, but I know that, for example, Yoram Cohen and Matan Kahana are two people I have a lot of respect for and faith in. They both happen to join the same party with Gadi Eisenkot leading that party. I'm not sure where that party is going to wind up and what Gadi Eisenkot will choose to do as leader of the party. We also have, so that's one issue. For me, the main issue, integrity of the people I want to see running. You mentioned what to do with the Haredim and the Arab populations. Not Wolf has a very she has a new party called Oz, and she's come up with an idea of getting all the Haredim and Arabs involved in something. It may not be the army per se, but at least national service. And of course, if this had been done 30, 40, 50 years ago, we wouldn't have a problem today, because
it wouldn't even be an issue we'd be talking about.
Correct. Because it would be like, well, they don't do the army, but at least they're giving a year or two, like every other 18, 19-year-old in the country, to the country. They're doing something. So now we have to kind of bargain with that and make that a understandable civic duty, which until now it just hasn't been. in both those population groups for a variety of reasons. Um, and I, I think security is not a real issue. I think when we talk about left and right, a little bit of what Yehuda was saying, that the Israeli left in general, if you put them in Europe, for example, they would be considered centrist or even possibly to the right. Um, when we talk about the
Most of them.
American left, yes, most. When we talk about the American left, you've got a division there between liberals and progressives, and it's also the Israeli left would not fit in for the most part there. So we have to be careful, and keep it in the frame of what we're talking about.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
was
Mark?
interesting that,
Oh, go ahead, Bachi. You want to add something? Go ahead.
yeah, that I thought that during Bennett's coalition, that Matan Kahana was the standout, and that was because um, he was working on making the Rabbanut our Rabbanut and not a Haredi Rabbanut. I called Bennett's coalition the Ketoret coalition because if you know what Ketoret was, what was burnt in the temple and in the
The
tabernacle.
incense. Yeah.
Yes, the holy incense, and certain elements of that incense were poison. And
Ah,
there, and
interesting.
Bennett had Arabs in his coalition, and that's why I called it the Ketoret.
Wow. That's an interesting analogy. Interesting.
To me, that was part of it. I thought, as I said, I considered Matan Kahana the standout, and
Okay.
but unfortunately, since that's finished, I voted actually for the party he ran with last time,
Okay. Well,
and he's
let's
been
come,
a total
but
zero since.
I want to come back and I want Mark to wrap up this very broad conversation, the part of this conversation we're having in terms of what are the issues that we're looking for. Mark, you identified yourself at the beginning as being on the political left. You're also younger by a decade or more
Yeah.
than all of us.
He's younger than my
And
youngest child.
Oy vey.
so
Yeah.
what are you looking at? What are your issues?
Yeah, so the first election I actually voted in was back in, I think, 2010, 2011, where you had the cost of living crisis, right? That the big protest on Rothschild, right? And
The
that's where
cottage cheese one.
Europe, yeah, the cottage cheese. And that's actually where the now leader of the opposition actually came to power. He came to power on
Right.
left issues. And the thing which we say that, okay, there's no right and no left, I think that's what Yuda said, that there's no real right and left in Israel is pretty much because the big left strategy with Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz and all those people is to attack Netanyahu from the right instead of attacking him from the left. And that was the new strategy in order to get more voters now coming from from the right. That's how also Bennett really came to power in 2021 was getting these voters from the right. And you do have a leader, Yair Golan, with the Democratic Party, who was actually that was the primary election I actually voted in when I was a member of Avodah to become leader.
Avodah is the Labor Party.
Yeah, the Labor Party. And now you do have now one of the big issues that a lot of people say is that they don't want there to be an actual coalition with the Arabs, which is a horrible thing. And these are left parties or so-called left parties saying that they're not going to form a coalition with the Arabs, who are 20% of the population of the state of Israel. It's something around 20%. And
Right.
I think, which is a horrible thing. And you do have left issues, which are these, labor issues and cost of living issues. And, you have a recession and the big tech layoffs that we're hearing about now in the media. And these are big issues that, they don't talk about this. It's not a big part of, the discussion. I think that's what causes a lot of people to say that there is no right and left in Israel when there are right and left. And you have people, Israelis, who consider themselves libertarians, which is a right-wing ideology. And you have also Israelis who consider themselves socialists or communists, who are also, take part, and that is left ideology. So you do have a right and left. And in the end, you have there is a Communist Party of Israel, right? And you have Hadash, which is a so-called, progressive or communist party. So you have, still parties that are considered, they consider themselves to be of the right and of the left. And for me, the big issues now are a lot of labor issues. The right-wing government that now wants to take away the right of certain unions, like the teachers' union, to go on strike and to fight for their certain labor rights that they have and
Okay.
of the Histadrut. Okay, so there are certain left and right wing issues that are also need to be talked about in these elections, and people do care about, such as young leftist Israelis.
I
So do
think
they come into
I think I want to
consideration?
clarify that a bit because I'm the person who said that it's not really okay. When I said right and left, I was talking about the classic Israeli right and
Hmm.
left, which is security land issues, kind of like what Batu was talking about also. I don't think those issues are major issues anymore. I think those issues have been, if not decided, they've certainly been put on the side. And if not before October 7th, and certainly after October 7th, there's certainly a much broader consensus about the security needs, about the undesirability of an official Palestinian state. I don't think these are issues anymore here. In terms of right and left on social and economic issues, you're absolutely right. There are right and left on social and economic issues. And those are the major issues that need to be addressed right now. It's the economy, it's the cost of living, it's the education system, it's the justice system, it's policing. It's all of these issues have not been addressed properly. And when there have been any kind of attempt at addressing them, that attempt has been very poorly communicated and basically has failed as a result.
I
Okay.
agree.
Good. One of the things I want to comment on is that I'm enjoying the conversation and I'm enjoying watching the nodding that's going on with a lot of affirmation across this spectrum that we've assembled here today, and I'm grateful for that. Before we move on, I'm being mindful of the time as the gatekeeper here, and I want to try and address two broader issues and as we begin this conversation that will hopefully be on a monthly basis for the up until the election. Before I do, I always like to be able to give you guys, the panelists, another word, right? We've had one big round robin, a little bit of interaction. Is there anything that's been missing that you want to add, specifically relating to what are the issues, or complement, or perhaps disagree with, or clarify vis-a-vis what some of the conversations? Go ahead, Erica.
I agree that these right and left issues are when it comes to the internal issues, because that's what I think makes up our everyday life. And that's what we're dealing with. We haven't been able to focus as much on our everyday life since October 7th because we've all been in emergency mode and but we really have to address it. And I think that's why this is all over the map. We all bring up so many different ideas and tangents because they're all interrelated. The point is that we need to put on our thinking caps and just figure out a way to get the policies together that are going to work for the people. And it's probably pretty simple if you just get a decent group of politicians together who can pass the laws. And that's how I feel. I think national service is a very good idea. I think it's just the act of contributing that will help. And it's not necessary to go to the army. And finally, God, I forgot. Oh, Haredim. So I think that younger Haredim, there is potential there. They want to leave. Some of them want to leave. Some of them want to have a job. Some of them don't want to live in poverty. And change comes very slowly in that sector. So we have to focus on giving them tools to join Israel. And I think most of Israel is united in a certain way. We're united in the idea that we are justified in fighting Iran, and we are united in loving our country. And people can say that we're as divided as we've ever been, but I don't agree. I really don't agree. I think everyone equally is going through it together. And when I'm voting, I'm thinking of everybody,
Excellent.
not just Jews.
Uh,
Yeah.
good. We as someone Mark I think noted, 20% of our
Yeah.
country are Arab citizens, and
And
that's
And
it's
I'd like to,
confusing. Sorry, it's confusing because Bedouin Arabs serve, but then there are other issues with them, like in terms of land, but that's okay. Or like Druze, they deserve maybe more than they're getting. So it's a complicated place,
very
but
complicated.
The
I'd like to
Druze are
address
some
that
of
issue
our
a little bit.
greatest patriots.
I'd like to
Patriots.
address
Good
that
point.
issue a little bit of the Arabs also. Like Mark said, it's over 20% of the population, and they have major issues in their society. Okay, the issue of violent crime in Arab society is an issue it's so bad
Terrible.
that
It's
it's not
terrible.
even being discussed anymore because it's almost a matter of course people are thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and with all due respect, we've had a police minister for the last 4 years who hasn't done a thing about it and is proud of the fact that he hasn't done a thing about it
Well, let's
and even mocks it.
okay.
In contrast, in
I
the
get to be
previous
gatekeeper, Yehuda. We're
yeah,
talking about the what are the issues that we're voting for. I don't want to talk
no,
about
so I'm
the
saying this is an issue. In the previous government, the one of the major complaints was that Bennett brought an Arab member of Knesset into the government as a cabinet minister, but he did
correct.
so with the idea of solving these problems. Jews are not going to solve the problems in Arab society, but the problems in Arab society are very quickly going to become problems that are going to spill over into Jewish society. You need somebody who's going to have access to that society in order to solve the problem, and Bennett knew
Okay.
it, and nobody else understood it. It was very poorly communicated, but that's the reason why. He brought people who were willing to go and do the work. The question is if he's going to have that power to do it now again, or if somebody else is going to take that over and be able to do it better.
Or are
And
we going
that's
to
where
end up
I'm
with the
coming
same
from.
coalition as we have now?
Sorry?
Which
Well, the
is,
thing
or
is,
are we
I
going to end
think
up
you're
with the
you're
same
missing
coalition
something.
But the
as
same
we have now?
coalitions we have now is not going to solve any of these problems.
No,
I'm
but
not
I
suggesting that it
think
will.
you're
I'm saying that
forgetting
that's part of the
something.
issue.
The
Batya, go ahead.
Bibi
I want to
invented,
wrap this part up.
yeah, but you're talking about the coalition and Bibi. You have to remember that Bibi invented a new type of government that he was doing time after time. It was called the caretaker government. We'd have elections, there'd be no coalition. That way he was able to rule without the fear that he'd be voted out for elections. He'd schedule the next elections for as long as the biggest break legally possible plus.
Wow.
And then again, we'd have elections, no coalition. After Bennett pulled what he pulled, which was mathematically impossible, but he pulled it off. And he had the smallest party. It went against every single expected and precedent, everything. I mean, it was brilliant. And he did a miracle. And then Bibi realized that he had to break it. So he did everything to bribe weak members of
Of
Bennett's
Bennett's party.
coalition.
Yeah.
And he brought them in, and he had this. He's also corruptedly could to give him what's called these discretionary
Yes, but
members he
Batya,
could
that
put
I
on
want
the
to put that
list.
part on the side. That we're gonna
And
talk a lot about the parties and what we like and don't like. I really want I think Mark wanted to make a comment. Am I correct in terms of
Y-
the issues? And then I
Yeah.
want to move on to the next issue.
Yeah, so I just want to say, add to what Yuda said and what to Erica said, is when we talk about certain issues like the violence in the Arab sector, right? And a lot of these issues are, broad issues. Like there's a violence problem in all of Israeli society. When you look, you just had this stabbing in Petah Tikva a few weeks ago,
horrific.
where you
Yeah.
had, in front of the pizza, which was in front of the pizza place, in front of the Pizza Hut there. And you do have the bullying and what's bullying in schools, these massive issues of violence against women that have been happening, and no one's calling this. It's a broader problem. You had on violence, crime, gang problem also in Israeli society. I think a decade ago with car bombings in Yavne and places like Yavne and in Ben Zakkai, and the periphery of Israel with the Al Peron crime family and the Aboriginal crime family, and like all these names that don't really say much anymore. But the thing was that because this was in the Israeli society, you had policing, and in the
Jewish
Arab sector,
society.
yeah, in
No,
Jewish
that is
society,
it's all Israeli.
yeah, it's all Israeli. But in Jewish society, you had high policing. in these, and then eventually the violence, crime, and the gang violence pretty much went down. But in certain, societies, like the Arab society in Israel, you don't have the same level of policing
We don't have the
and
same level of policing, and certainly that it's an issue that all
resources. Yeah,
Israelis should be concerned about, but
be
especially
concerned
in the
about.
Arab society, and that should impact their vote. But as long as,
Yeah.
unfortunately, we don't have any Israeli Arabs on this panel, but they've been voting for the same parties also who haven't fixed it. So we're going to come back to that. There's so much that we're going to leave
Mhm.
on the table. I want to move forward and
Can I
try
just
to
say
have.
one thing before you do?
I'll
I
never
just think
say
it's
no to you, Erica.
amazing that like 5 minutes ago, how far into the podcast are we? Like 20 minutes in, half an hour? That was the first time that BB was mentioned. That is so refreshing,
Well, we're going
honestly.
We're going to wrap up with BB, but now I want to ask you, but now I want to ask you the questions we've talked about in a very broad way and a really dynamic conversation that we've had so far. What are the issues that we're voting for? What I also like as we set out the beginning of this conversation, the first in a sequel, is what are the red lines? Eric, I think you alluded to it in your little schizophrenic comment. No coalition, but any coalition that doesn't include the ultra orthodox. What are the red lines? Quickly, I don't want to have a long conversations about this now, but if you're looking at the parties and you're looking at the personalities as we approach the election, what's that barrier that's gonna prevent you from even considering them? Arnie, you're nodding. Go ahead.
Yeah, the behavior of various politicians at the moment, particularly government ministers, is embarrassing to me as an Israeli, to the country, to the world. And I think those particular individuals should not be voted, even if their party, even if I agree with their platform, I can't, again, it goes back to my integrity issue of who I vote for a person. If that person is embarrassing, I can't vote for them. I just can't do it.
You have slim pickings.
Yeah,
Yehuda?
seriously. I have to say it's not exactly a red line because I don't see any real major alternatives, but I have to give serious consideration to not voting for anybody who is in a position of responsibility for October 7th.
Right.
Anybody,
Exactly. That goes
anybody, who-
against everything Bob
anybody who was in the
Um,
defense establishment before October 7th, I would say going back 10 years, is part of the problem.
wow.
And that's the only major issue I have against Eisenkot. I would seriously consider Eisenkot, except he was a chief of staff within the 10 years before October 7th. The same
Wow.
thing with Gantz. Gantz, Arnie, you mentioned about being a mensch. This guy is the biggest mensch in the entire Knesset. Okay. And I've
Mensch
met
is a
him
good guy
personally.
for those who don't know Yiddish.
Yeah, right. And I've met him personally, and in person, he's even more of one. Okay. I don't necessarily agree with him 100% politically, but I would consider voting for him, except for the fact that he was defense minister before October 7th. And he's part of the problem as a result. Netanyahu, for sure, is part of the problem. The question then becomes who isn't? And I'm left with seriously maybe one or two party leaders, and even they were sort of on the edge, but at least they talk about it and they realize that there was a problem that has to be addressed. Okay, but again, I think that has to be a red line. And the other red line is, like I said, it has to be people who are willing to come to work. There are political leaders who are very interested in learning what the problems are and learning how to go about solving them. And there are political leaders who simply don't want to hear it. And I'm
Great.
not interested in voting for anybody who doesn't want to hear it.
Okay. Mark, what are your
I
red
will
lines?
say,
Oh, go ahead, Arnie. Go ahead. I'll let you add something.
just to clarify, there are those who believe, I'm one of them, that the defense establishment can't take the full blame because they might have reported to the political establishment various pieces of information that was never acted upon from the political.
100% agreed. But the people that I was talking about were people who were already in the political establishment when this became a problem.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Mark, your red lines?
Yeah, so I am also pretty much also against a lot of people who were in the military establishment, prior to October 7th. But the issue I think also is I'm honestly looking for serious people, and currently no one's really serious about, addressing actual issues. So unless people actually address, the serious issues that we talked about before, I'm just going to end up voting for lesser of, many evils, I guess.
Right. In
Uh,
America, at least it's simple because largely there's two candidates
yeah,
and
it's two
two
candidates.
parties, and you can
Yeah,
pick one that you can stomach best as compared to here. It's like a whole smorgasbord of people you don't want to vote for.
yeah. So
Very
that's pretty
nice.
much it. Yeah.
Okay, Batya, what are your red lines?
Anyone, the establishment in the government, and basically from Bibi on down, Brahmat the chief of staff on down. There's been so much, everybody, let's say, that glass ceiling that they've been stopping the voices from being heard. And we have I, we need a real cleaning, but it's easier said than done. This is a very, our, even when you vote for one person, you don't know whom they'd make a coalition with.
That's why
And
coalitions do matter, right? Because
you
you
know,
can vote for the cleanest person who has no connection to October 7th and has a great slate of people and policies that we all agree with. But if that person or party gets 8 seats, that person and party can make a coalition government with more or less the same kind of characters that we have now, propping up and preventing from moving forward. Yeah, Arnie, go ahead.
I
Bennett
just want to
got stabbed in the back.
Yeah, I just want to mention that for listeners who will be listening to this from outside of Israel and don't understand the coalition system, at least in the United States, what we see is there is a coalition system. It just happens before the elections, so that the within the Democratic Party, within the Republican Party, the various factions somehow come together and choose a particular candidate as their leader. It's for a vice president, for various cabinet positions that will be up for grabs, and the coalitions are all the horse trading is done before the election. Here, that's all done after the election.
Correct. Well, but it's done also after, excuse me, before, as someone began to mention, and we're not going to go into it now, but in terms of Likud being given or Bibi being given within the Likud party so many spots that he gets to choose over and above the democratic system that does exist within the Likud party, and it's only one of the few that has a democratic primary system. Erica, last word on red lines.
It's hard to say. I mean, I set out my major issues, which are also my red lines. I found in elections that I just get so disgusted by the mudslinging that I wait until the end to see like what the final conclusion is, and then I go with my gut. So honestly, it's hard for me to predict. I mean, red lines, obviously, like just not caring about the people. And I think you can tell when someone has a true feeling of wanting to be a leader and when they don't. And also, if you have like a really odd bedfellow, like like I think like they say politics makes odd bedfellows. So I think Naftali Bennett and Lapid are kind of weird. And
Yeah, but
I
they've been at it since the beginning. They've been together.
I
Yeah.
mean I guess, but I kind of like Eisenkot. I kind of like Lieberman, believe it or not. And we'll see. In every election, I've made my decision at the last minute. So jury's out. I don't know. Let's see how things shape up. Every single day, there's so much news. It's so hard to say.
Okay, excellent. All of this is to be continued, and I want to point out that we're mentioning Eisenkot and Bennett and Ben Gvir, and we're mentioning Bibi, which we're going to come to in just a moment, and Lieberman. And for a lot of people who are following, don't know the names who these are, so we're going to have a chance to come back and dissect such players and their policies in subsequent conversations. But what I'd like to do to wrap up this conversation, and I'd like to ask that it not be political per se, is that Bibi is the elephant in the room. Bibi, for many Israelis, is the only prime minister that they've ever known. He's now the longest serving prime minister in Israel, 25, maybe 30% of the existence of the state. He's been prime minister, and with little exception, largely um, largely been running the show for the last most of the last 2 decades. We had a little bit of Ariel Sharon, we had a little bit of Ehud Olmert, and we had a little bit of Bennett and Lapid, but Netanyahu has been that guy. And for a lot of the people following this conversation who are outside of Israel, they also don't know. They don't know the details that we don't know. They don't know the issue of spending a lot of money to order pistachio ice cream from the place up the road, and why that's so distasteful for many Israelis, and other issues. What I'd like to ask all of you is to help. I'm not saying don't be political, but help people who are following from outside of Israel understand, who think of Bibi as the guy. He's always been there, and he always should be there. Whether you think it or not, why Israelis don't necessarily think that.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with Netanyahu is in 20 years he's not groomed a successor, and so and so the
Exactly.
He's
and
pushed
so
them
the
away.
yes, he has. There are people who have risen to be his number two, and each time just slap them away, move them away, and they've left in disgust. And you can't be. I mean, he could have last time, the time before, left as prime minister on a high, the Abraham Accords, etc. And there's no question if his number two that he had groomed for 15 years, 10 years, had taken over, he would still be going to Bibi off the record, consulting every day for issues. And so Bibi would still have a huge say in what's going on in the government without being the prime minister. But that hasn't happened. And so that's one of the biggest issues I have with him in terms of he doesn't, for a man with such great foresight and great diplomatic skills, he just hasn't done it internally, not to mention cause such uproar and upheaval within the country.
So
So,
many, if not most, of the leaders of the current opposition parties are people that were close confidants
Motivated
in
him.
Likud, who got either thrown away or turned off. What other issues? Why do Israelis look at our longest
Oh,
serving prime minister and not? Batya, you're nodding. Go ahead.
okay. This is a American history. It used to be there was no law limiting the amount of terms an American president could serve until FDR
Yeah,
broke all records, and I think he was elected
4
4 times
times.
correct.
and died early in his
Term.
fourth term. And they realized this wasn't good because people had gotten so used to him, they were terrified of change. The man was literally dying, and people could see it, but they were terrified of change. It's as what have I been doing in my retirement is I study a lot of Bible, and we had compare what happened when Moshe was ending his term of office. He told God, "I can't
Moses.
leave until I have a successor," and
Oh,
he
good.
got Joshua to be the successor. And things went well because Joshua was able to. The people didn't go nuts. Then Joshua was not like that. Joshua did not have a successor. And then we had the time of the judges when there was chaos. And it's not healthy for a people of government, of citizens, to think only one person can be the prime minister. The government and the country have to be stronger than one person. We're not up to one person. This isn't a monarchy. And we are in a very dangerous state of mind right now. And
I
I would say that even if I supported Bibi, which I don't, but we have to, it frightens me when I hear people say they can't imagine anyone else because it means they'll overlook problems. We must get brave and we must get somebody else in.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think that a large part of the problem is that many years ago when he got his start, Bibi captured the imagination of the Israeli population, whether it was right or left, whether it was opposition or support. He captured their imagination. It was more than just charisma. It was the ability to talk in the United Nations. It was the ability to talk to a US president who did not have our best interests at heart. It was the ability to talk to Israelis of
And
all
on
different
CNN.
stripes. Okay, it was communication. Okay, and right now he's just basically continuing on that credit. He's not capturing anybody's imagination anymore, but he's the guy in charge. And the problem is that nobody else is capturing the Israeli voters' imagination either, so they just keep staying with what they have.
Thank you. Mark,
But
Erica?
we're not a country that elects the president or prime minister. We're supposed to have a prime minister who can work with a group of disparate parties and make it a unified country. And we don't have that.
Okay.
I think the
Mark,
problem is that
Erica?
Bibi's been in power for so long. I mean, he's 76 years old, and I don't hate him. I think he's done great things. I think the Israeli people are very disappointed in him. Like you said, he captured the imagination, and now he's kind of devolved. And they say he's minutak, he's cut off. He forgot about what made him great. He's lost touch. He's been in power for way too long, and it's time to let some new light in, let new people in, and let the Likud party go back to what it used to be. And like, I think people just want something new. And it feels sometimes like the whole country is run by a single person and
It
there's
is.
nothing we could do about it. There's no representative government. And like, we're just waiting him out at this point. I mean, it's really crazy. Can he just step down? He's 76. You know what? If he gets elected again, fine. Okay. So let him serve, but please just then serve. But I'm not expecting much. I think that there's a certain voting bloc that always votes for Bibi. That it's a cult of personality, and there's nothing that we could do about it. So I don't know if they were swayed at all by October 7th. Maybe a little, but I doubt it. So there's a very good chance Bibi's going to win again.
Never count
So
him out.
yeah, never count him out. And it doesn't do any good to hate him because I don't think he's worthy of our hate, and I also think it takes too much energy. So can we just stop talking about him? I'm
In
so
just a
tired
moment, I
of
want I
him.
want Mark to
Yeah,
have to give his input.
yeah. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna respond to what Erica just said about feeling like the country is being ruled by one leader. And I think one of the big issues I think with Netanyahu as a prime minister is that every time there's a crisis, it feels like Israel is being led by no leaders. He's pretty much not there when we had COVID, the beginning of COVID, and the health ministry crashed. Okay, there was no testing infrastructure when COVID happened, and Bibi and Netanyahu was the prime minister during COVID when we had that crisis, and then we also had now with the war. And when the war started, then we have no leaders. It's all because of the Shin Bet, the intelligence service leaders, and it's all because of the military establishment. And Netanyahu isn't there. He's not there. And we have, when you listen to a lot of people on the right and in the Likud, it's all because of the deep state and because of the judicial system. And I don't know, do we have a prime minister or do we have a government? Uh, it
So you're
doesn't feel like
saying
anyone's
you're
leading the
saying that
country.
that
There's no
Netanyahu does not have
accountability.
he does not have on his desk a sign that Harry Truman had, the buck stops here.
Oh,
No, it
right.
doesn't.
There's no
If there,
buck.
yeah,
Come
yeah.
The
It's
shekel.
on.
The shekel.
No,
Which is
Well,
there's
worth
no
much
buck.
more than the
There's no
buck.
responsibility. Nobody takes any responsibility. That's what I said, the death of shame. Like,
right.
and the ministries don't minister. It does
Well,
feel
Well, okay.
sometimes like the government doesn't work. It does.
And he's the boss of that, so he needs to be
Because
what's
he's too
Arnie
preoccupied. Sorry, he's too preoccupied with keeping himself in power.
so
That's
I
the
thought you were gonna
lifeblood of
go
this country now.
and that's
well,
I
the
thought
So
you were going to go in
question
a different direction. And what I want to give one really
sorry.
quick final. No, no, it's good. One really quick final wrap up. But what none of you have mentioned is the corruption trial that has been going on for how many
It's
years now? Three,
funny. Yeah.
4 years. We're talking about other issues, but I want people to understand that real quick. Any last comments vis-a-vis what to not, I don't want to get into the politics of it, whether we like him or don't like him. I think we're all to a certain degree saying, yeah, he's done a great job. He in many ways has been excellent, but I want people who are not here to understand why are we nuts not all in for Bibi again. Arnie, were you going to say something?
I was just mentioning what you said that he wasn't around and that it seems like being led by one person. There's a skit from a Israeli satire show from years ago already, where they were having a cabinet meeting, and the Minister of Finance, the Ministry of Treasury, the Minister of Economics was there, and the Prime Minister was there, and the Minister of Health was there, and it's all Bibi because he had at one
I
point.
remember that.
Yeah.
You remember that? And
Okay.
it's just crazy, and it continues. So, but anyway,
Okay.
Um,
You'll note. Go ahead, Erica.
Sorry, you were going to say Richard arrived. I just want to say really quick that we didn't mention the corruption trial because it's like not, I don't know if the people are that occupied with it. I think we just, we just want to move on with our lives. And I don't think that necessarily Bibi's more corrupt than anyone else. I mean, everyone's a little corrupt. So who cares? Like, so either like just stop trying to not testify and move on. That's, I think, what the issue is behind all of this. Just move on.
Okay.
Let's
I
let's have a new page.
I
Batya.
find very peculiar similarities between the so-called corruption trial against Bibi and the stuff in the States against Trump. It was just too similar, the timing, the ridiculous charges. I go follow the money, and it's no secret that international leftists were conducting a lot of the Kaplan, the money coming in. This wasn't, maybe you're saying that the left seems rudderless now, maybe because whoever was supplying the money stopped supplying it. But as much as I'm not a fan of Bibi's, I think all those charges were total bupkis, meaning ridiculous and trumped up.
I'm, I'm
And it
glad you
was
said
using,
Bupkis. I thought you were going to say something else that's not for our family show. But
yeah,
okay.
but it was what is it called, lawfare, and
Okay.
it was it's a shame, but that I see too many parallels,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so it makes me nervous.
Mark, Yehuda, very quick last words. Anything else? Why to amplify or just add that why are we not all Israelis just lined up behind Netanyahu this election?
Oh, it's healthy not to line up behind one candidate, and there are
Okay.
many reasons not to line up behind him. And you've got 15 other political parties. Each one represents at least one of those reasons on the right and the left and the center and everybody else.
Okay.
But it's the fractures between those parties that give him the power to stay in power.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
it's coalition building is necessary in Israel. It always has been. But he's maybe one of the only guys who really knows how to play that game.
He does it well. Mark,
Yeah, I'm gonna
anything
also
else?
say that with lining up behind Netanyahu is that you also have Netanyahu's party. You're not just voting for one prime minister. And I think looking at other people in his political party, you do, even if you are of the right, you have better alternatives on the right. You have many other right-wing parties that are viable that you could vote for. And I guess the Likud party doesn't look, that appealing to the average young Israeli.
Yeah. Okay. Lots of reasons. As I promised at the outset, we've left much more on the table than we began. I'm so grateful for all of you, the panelists, for being part of this. Uh, I can't even begin to script these conversations, so I look forward to the next non-scripted conversation. We're going to dump in and do a little bit deep dive here and there. I encourage everyone who's following to continue to follow and share this, and I hope that it'll be interesting to see where the clarity comes and how it comes, and I'm looking forward to our exploring that. Before we do a final wrap up and the announcements and thanks, Richard, I want to ask you just to unmute yourself. I've invited a good friend, Richard Knelson in Canada, to join us, and appropriately, we need it to close in prayer.
I am just amazed, blown away with all of the information that I've received. I'm at the very towards the end of life, and just an observer. I'm from Canada, so I would like to be living in Israel. I would like to, I would like very much if God had seen fit to have me born a Jew and be very much a part of what's going on in Israel right now, but I'm not. So the closest I come is you are probably all familiar with the Land of Israel Fellowship, the Aragot Farm. We are active members of that and see this group of people every Sunday morning. So just before I pray, I just want to make a couple of observations. I'm very much a biblical person, so I look at Israel with through biblical eyes, and I think I may be fairly sentimental as well about all of that, and coming to where I am through a Christian, a church route, bringing me to where I am today, that I love Israel. I see Israel as the center of what's going on in the world today, all of the world. Israel is God's nation. He chose Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and all of you here are a part of that nation. And that nation, he said, should choose leaders whom Hashem himself has chosen. So that for me is how I pray for Israel, particularly in this period of time,
Thank
that
you.
those leaders, and I don't know how he goes about letting you individually in Israel know whom he has chosen. Um, he finds some way of doing that, I think, because he designed Israel to be a nation of priests for all of the other nations. And I'm in one of those other nations in Canada that is very, very, very much in need of help. We are
Yes,
going down the tubes in relation to Israel so fast that it's frightening. So that's the kind of uh, situation out of which I'm going to pray.
please.
So, Father, you are the creator of the universe. You chose Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You chose Israel. You chose Moses. You chose this people to take over a land that you had chosen for yourself. This is your land. And you have chosen a people to steward it for you. And so, Father, as they are going into an election now, oh Lord, I'm just asking that your purposes are going to be fulfilled, that those whom you have been preparing for leadership. We've spoken about integrity, and that is just at the heart of what you desire in people that you bring forward for leaders, integrity and a solid foundation in your principles. And so, Father, I am confident that this election is going to bring about whatever you will be able to use to bring Israel forward into the future that is ahead of us. And that future is not an easy one, but it's an exciting one to be a part of. So, Father, thank you. Thank you particularly for Jonathan and for the way in which he gets information out to us. And bless him, bless the foundation, and bless all of the participants, the panelists. Father, I
Yes.
thank you for each one of them. Bless them.
Thank you,
Amen.
Richard. Amen.
Amen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Amen.
very
Thank
much,
Thank you,
you.
Richard.
Thank you
Arnie.
very
Thank you,
much.
Batya,
God willing.
Yehuda, Erica, and Mark. We will look forward to continue this. And also thanks, as we always do, to wrap up to our sponsors, the Willow Run Greenhouse in Culpeper, Virginia. And if you're ever in the area, pop in and thank them for helping make conversations like this possible. And also thanks to our friends, the Coin family, for their meaningful sponsorship. Inspiration from Zion is a program of the Genesis 123 Foundation. And like all programs, they're made possible by donations. So please consider joining us to help continue conversations like this and build bridges. If you'd like to sponsor a future episode, in honor or memory of a loved one or special occasion or your favorite God-chosen politician, please be in touch at inspirationfromzion@gmail.com. We'd always love to hear your comments as part of the dialogue and invite you to send questions about politics and questions about traditional Judaism for our Ask the Rabbi programs. Please share this with others who will also find it of interest and continue to join us right here where we bring you more meaningful conversations about topics relating to Israel that you won't hear anywhere else. Wherever you are in the world, I pray that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy, and I send my blessings from right here in the Judean mountains. God bless you.
Thank you.